My name is Toby Boyer. I'm the Watershed Specialist for the Clinton County Conservation District. Today, Wade and I are out here on Cook's Run. It is a stream that has been historically affected by acid mine drainage or abandoned mine drainage. As you can kind of tell, just looking around at the rocks and the general stream bed here, you can kind of get an orange tint to some of the rocks in the stream. I'll pick one up here. So if you look historically at the upper end of the watershed that was mined, we have a lot of mine spoils left over. The companies that mined it in the 70s kind of up and left. And so what happens is when it rains or the spring waters, all the waters at the upper end of the watershed come down. They come in contact with those mine spoils and they pick up an acidic pH. They pick up some metals, iron, aluminum, manganese. And so you can kind of see that even though we're a few miles from the upper end of this watershed, you can still see how that mining event has affected this entire waterway, the entirety of Cook's Run and some of its tributaries. And so again, you can kind of see this orange color where iron has precipitated out of the solution. It's obtained oxygen with the water, and again, when it precipitates out of the solution, it settles to the bottom on these rocks and on the stream bed. And what that does, it creates a covering. It kind of destroys the aquatic life, the aquatic vegetation, and the aquatic organisms that live in the stream. And so that's not good because then, the fish don't have any of the insects that live in the stream to eat. And so then your fish are either going to move out or die where they are. Another thing that comes with the mine spoils is typically a lower pH. You'll pick up that acidic water, and again, before DEP did the reclamation up top of the watershed, we saw pHs in kind of the low to mid fives. But as we're going to get into a little bit later here, when we talk about the Sonde, our continuous monitoring device, and we talk about some of the other water quality parameters that we take here, we'll kind of explain, some of those situations and some of that, some of why this waterway is the way that it is.
So Toby, tell me a little bit about what you have there.
So this is a 600 XLM Sonde. We got it from YSI Incorporated. What a Sonde is essentially is a continuous monitoring device. So we leave it in the stream. You don't have to continuously kind of go out and sample the water quality with equipment. Right now we're monitoring for pH, we're monitoring for conductivity, temperature. A couple of years back, DEP completed a reclamation project up here at the top of the mountain. So kind of monitoring to see how that reclamation project is affecting the water quality here. Cook's Run historically was mined in the 1970s, and ever since then there's been some major water quality issues because of that mining. So that's what we're out here doing. We're installing this Sonde to figure out, how the pH and how that's kind of changed over time.
Are you seeing any improvements in water quality after the acid mine drainage remediation?
It looks like we are seeing some improvements. Taking a look at the data, when we first started with the Sonde down here, we were seeing pH values in the mid fives, sometimes lower fives, and we continue to see pH values today after a year or so after the reclamation at the mid sixes down here on the lower end of Cook's Run. So we're going to continue to monitor the water quality and the pH to ensure that it stays that way, because sometimes we complete a project and you'll see that initial water quality spike in the positive direction, but as you move on, years down the road, it can change.
If you were a trout, what kind of pH would a trout like?
So trout like a pH anywhere from 6 to 8, depending on the species. Brook trout can tolerate a little bit lower pH just because they're native to this region, and typically some of the soils in some of these mountain streams are a little bit more acidic.
And are we seeing any evidence that trout are responding?
Yeah, so back in July of 2019, the Fish and Boat Commission, Trout Unlimited, Penn State, Lock Haven University, the Conservation District, DEP, all partnered up to do some stream sampling to see the population, or to check populations of native trout in this watershed, and we have seen definitely the first time we sampled a positive or an increase in the amount of trout here from previous sampling. So what we're doing now is we're going to install the Sonde back into Cook's Run. We have a little kind of protective PVC armoring around the Sonde so that in case of high water events, we don't lose the Sonde or it doesn't get banged up. And so this is kind of the standard procedure that we use here at the Conservation District to protect it. All right, so we're gonna put the Sonde back in the stream, and we're gonna leave it here for probably another month and a half before we come back to check it. Definitely really cuts down on the cost of our time and the time it takes to come out to the site and actually do the monitoring. And that's part of the reason why Sondes are a valuable piece of equipment.